We already know ahead of time who our Popcak is for today. It's Dr. Greg Popcak. Welcome and good morning, Dr. Greg Popcak.
Good morning.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to this conversation, Greg, because I think so many people struggle with this. How to discern whether you're being a people pleaser or you're really living a life of sacrificial love, also taking into account your own needs.
Yeah, it's a huge question, right? Because Jesus says, we need to deny ourselves and take up our cross and follow after him, right? So a lot of times we interpret that as meaning that we just shouldn't have any needs, that we should just be there for others and be generous to others, and that's it, right? And of course we should be generous to others. It's and St. John Paul talked a lot about how we find ourselves by making a gift of ourselves to others, and so there's a strong kind of sense of that in our Christian story, but it's a little more complicated than that. We are called to deny ourselves, of course, but I think what that means is that we have these desires, these needs, but we also kind of have some ideas about how we want to meet those needs and when we want to get them met. And sometimes those can be complicated, right? And that's what I think we need to deny ourselves of. It's not so much that we deny our needs, because God gave us those needs. He actually built into us the things that we need in order to thrive, because a need isn't just about basic survival. A need is anything that allows an organism to thrive. That's what biologists would tell us. And so the needs that we have that would enable us to thrive really have been given us by God. And we discover his plan for our lives by praying through ways to meet those needs. But we have to be flexible about how we meet those needs and when we meet those needs, so that we can still be generous to others and meet their needs too. And that's the denying ourselves part. Because I want what I want when I want it and the way I want it.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what selfishness is. Selfishness isn't pursuing my needs. It's pursuing my needs in a way that it doesn't care about you. So that pursues them, the way I want them and when I want them. But dying to myself really means not destroying or ignoring my needs, but rather pursuing those needs in ways that are flexible enough to be considerate of what you need. And what that does then is that kind of lets us live out this sort of Trinitarian vision of love in our relationships. St. Bonaventure talked about how the Trinity was like a 3-bucket water wheel. Mm-hmm. And each bucket, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, is pouring itself out for the others, but never running dry, because the other 2 buckets are constantly filling itself back up. And that's the model for healthy Christian relationships. But people pleasers have a broken water wheel, right? They pour and they pour and they pour, but they don't expect anyone to fill them back up, or they are in relationships with people who won't fill them back up, and so they feel burned out and frustrated, and then confuse those feelings with sacrificial love. I'm so miserable, it must be making me holy, right? And that's a real mistake, because suffering in and of itself isn't a sign of holiness. Suffering is only producing holiness if it's producing growth in virtue in us and the people around us, right? So the redemptive suffering is suffering that occurs as I'm trying to pursue growth or challenging you to grow. So, for example, let's say that I have a problem with you guys, right? I'm frustrated about something. Mm-hmm. Now, if I keep that to myself and I don't talk about it, I'm going to suffer. But that's not healthy suffering, because it's not challenging me to be courageous and be honest, and it's not challenging you to grow, and it's not working for the good of our relationship. Mm-hmm. But if I go to you guys and I say, hey, I'm really kind of frustrated about this, and I'd really like to talk it out, and maybe you get mad at me at first, and it's uncomfortable. There's suffering involved in that, but it's redemptive, because it's challenging me to be honest and courageous, and it's challenging you guys to be receptive to what I'm saying, and it's challenging us to work on the relationship. And so if we respond to that, we're all going to become more virtuous, better people. And so that kind of suffering is redemptive. So we have to really look at the fruit that the suffering is bearing in our lives. Is it just making us miserable and grinding us down? That's not God's will. Is it challenging us to become healthier, holier people and have healthier relationships? Well, that is the Holy Spirit asking us to work through those things. And so people pleasers have a really hard time with that, because the feeling of that tension makes them feel like they're doing something wrong. And so it's really important to recognize that we're not called to work for love, we're called to really work from love. And when we're in that people-pleasing mode, we're really working for love, and everything we do kind of has this unconscious price tag that says, I'm doing this because I'm afraid that if I don't, you won't accept me, or you won't love me, or you'll leave me. And that's really not love. That's a transaction rooted in fear.
Yeah.
But when we work from love, we're able to give freely and work for our mutual good and the good of our relationships. So, that's kind of a something that the theology of the body really helps to clarify, because as I was saying before, it's very easy to look at our Catholic tradition and just say, well, needs are bad, suffering good, go.
Yeah, but can we sometimes, because I love this. This is just such a wonderful way to look at this. So the idea, right? If you're a people pleaser, it's always about trying to get love for yourself. I'm doing this, like you said, it's a transaction because I want something back. If that's going on with you, is it more of a shift in your perspective to realize I can do the same thing, but do it out of love, from love? So it is a sense that maybe prayer and reflection can lead you to see that action that you're doing from a different stance.
Yeah, I think that most people, though, they don't really see that there's that as I said, price tag attached to it. It's I just feel like, well, I have to do this, right? But so practically speaking, you're right? We're bringing our needs to God and asking Him to teach us how to do what we're doing from a healthier place.
Right.
But I think practically speaking, what that means is acknowledging our needs too. And so what I like to try to teach my clients is what I call the qualified yes technique. So if somebody asks me something, instead of saying, oh, do I want to say yes to this or no to this, and then getting, feeling guilty about saying no, so then kicking into the people-pleasing mode, and well, then I automatically have to say yes. The qualified yes allows me to consider my needs too. So I'm able to say, well, you know what, let's say you ask me to help you move on Tuesday.
Right.
I don't really want to do it, but because moving sucks. But I'm able to say, hey, you know what, I can do it from this time to this time, but I can't do the whole day. Would that work for you? So that's a qualified yes. I'm able to give you what I can do. Back off, yeah. So that approach really works.
I like that.
Love
Great.
that. My mom, God rest her soul, was so good at really giving true love, which a lot of times for me meant a lot of tough love. Wow. So she wasn't always trying to please people.
That's right. Yeah. She knew what love was.
Yes. Dr. Greg Popcak, what a great little lesson for us this morning, and
Thanks,
a lot
Dr.
of food
Greg.
for thought there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Have a good weekend.